Emily was 6 years old the first time she saw him, standing in the corner of her bedroom, tall, silent, face swallowed by darkness. Only his pale hands were visible, hanging motionless at his sides. Every night, same corner, same man. Her mother checked every single time. Every single time. The room was empty. She's 18 now, and last night he was standing beside her mother's bed. Emily never told anyone what she saw as a child. Not her friends, not her teachers, not even her mother, fully. Because how do you explain something that disappears the moment anyone else looks? Every night as a child, just as she was drifting off to sleep, her eyes would open, and he would be there, always the same corner, always perfectly still, too tall for the room, face hidden inside a darkness that had no source, pale hands hanging at his sides like he had nowhere to be, and all the time in the world to wait. He never blinked. He never spoke. He never moved. He only watched. Every single night, Emily would run screaming to her mother's room. And every single night, her mother would walk back down the hallway with her, check under the bed, inside the closet, behind the curtains, switch on every light, kneel beside Emily, and say the same thing. There's nobody there, sweetheart. Emily wanted to believe her. But the next night, he came back. This continued for months. Eventually, Emily refused to sleep in her room at all. Her mother let her stay. From that night forward, the man never appeared again. Years passed. Emily convinced herself it had been nightmares. Children imagine impossible things. That's what everyone says. By the time she was 18, she believed it too. On the morning of her 18th birthday, Emily helped her mother clean out the attic. Beneath old boxes and faded blankets, they found a dusty family photo album. They sat together, turning pages. Birthdays, vacations, holiday gatherings. Emily was smiling until she stopped. One photograph showed her childhood bedroom. The wallpaper she remembered. The little wooden bed. The stuffed rabbit she'd slept with every night. Everything exactly as she remembered. Everything except the corner. There, half hidden by shadow, stood a tall figure. He wasn't facing the camera. He wasn't looking at whoever took the picture. He was staring directly at the bed. Emily felt the warmth leave her face completely. She slowly turned the album toward her mother. "Who is that?" Her mother went very still. Several seconds passed. Her expression didn't look surprised. It looked frightened. Finally, she whispered, "I never showed you that picture." Emily forced a laugh. "It has to be a shadow, or someone standing just outside the frame." Her mother didn't answer. She quietly closed the album. Then she said something Emily has never forgotten. "When you were little, every morning after you slept in my room, I found muddy footprints." Emily stared at her. "What do you mean?" "They started in your bedroom." Her mother's voice dropped lower. "And they ended beside my bed. room was completely silent. I cleaned them every morning. I told myself there had to be an explanation. I never wanted you to know. Emily tried to laugh again. Mom, that's impossible. I know. Her mother looked down at the closed album. I always hoped. She paused. That he was following you. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, telling herself it was an old photograph, a frightened parent reading too much into muddy floors. Nothing more. Eventually, exhaustion won. She closed her eyes. At exactly 3:13 a.m., Emily's eyes opened. She didn't know why. The room was completely silent. Then she felt it. That feeling, the one she hadn't felt in 12 years. The unmistakable certainty that someone else was in the room. Slowly, she turned her head toward the corner. It was empty. Emily let out a long, shaky breath. She almost laughed at herself. Then she thought of her mother. She got up quietly, walked into the hallway, and looked toward her mother's bedroom. The door was slightly open. Moonlight lay across the floor in a pale strip. Emily pushed the door gently wider. Her mother was asleep, completely still. Everything looked perfectly normal. Then Emily saw him, standing beside the bed, tall, silent, face still hidden inside that sourceless darkness, pale hands hanging motionless at his sides. But this time, he wasn't looking at Emily. He was watching her mother sleep. Very slowly, he turned his head, and for the first time in 12 years, he smiled. Then, he did something he had never done before. He raised one pale finger to his lips, and in a voice so quiet it was almost nothing, he whispered, "Don't wake her." Emily couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't breathe. The man's smile widened slightly. Then, without taking a single step, he simply disappeared into the darkness beside the bed. When morning light filled the room, there was no sign he had ever been there, except for one thing. Across the wooden floor, leading from Emily's old bedroom all the way to her mother's bedside, was a trail of fresh, muddy footprints. Some fears don't belong to childhood. Some fears were never yours to begin with. They were always waiting for someone else. I'm Silent Hour. If this story kept you awake tonight, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Subscribe for new stories every week. Turn on notifications. And tonight, before you sleep, check the corners. Good night.